All right, thank you, Nate. A lot of news from both Democrats and Republicans on the presidential election. Former President Trump is riding the momentum of the Republican National Convention, while many colleagues are now pushing for President Biden to drop out of the race. And here to join us now and talk more about what's been happening this week. It's been unbelievable, incredible to watch all of the news that's been coming out this week. But let's start with the convention, and I want to start with just a little bit of sound from former President Trump talking about how he wants unity. So let's listen.
As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America.
Okay, and we're going to start with you, Pat, because you were there last night. I'll make your reaction to that and the mood and the feel and what you thought about what he was saying about unity.
Well, overall, the convention was fantastic. Credit Milwaukee and the Republican National Committee. It was very well run, and Wisconsin people are very nice. Mm-hmm. And it was so very well organized, and there was a lot of momentum going into that speech. And there was a lot of momentum going to that speech, particularly after he said that, and then it all went south.
Yeah.
Because he meandered for 40 minutes. I had the text of the script in front, or the speech in front of me, and probably 65% of what he said last night wasn't in the
Oh, is that right? So you're reading it and realizing a lot of this is not.
And you could see the room get deflated. By the end of it, people are looking at their phones. I mean, it was, I think, close to midnight. Mm-hmm. And he blew an opportunity there, I think, to actually take that message he started out with, which was very good, mm-hmm. and take it to the rest of the country and kind of broaden the field. But missed opportunity. I said last night, I'm getting yelled at for it today. That's the worst acceptance speech I've ever seen.
Wow. Okay. So I want to give you an opportunity real quick to comment on that, too, because I also want to ask you about something else. So what was your reaction to his speech?
Well, he did go off his speech. You know, if I was the teleprompter, I'd be going crazy. I mean, where do I start? Where do I begin again? Mm-hmm. No, I thought it was, it was great entertainment. Listen, the whole week was terrific for the Republicans. He is Simon Cowell. This was Republicans Got Talent. He put everybody up on stage, gave everybody the golden buzzer, and last night he hit it out of the ballpark, for the first half of his speech. Second half, we all went to sleep. But the first half was really what he wanted to get the message across. He should have finished it there. He went 35, 40 minutes too long.
Okay, let's talk now about what's happening with President Biden, because there's talk that he is now considering stepping aside. Some media outlets saying it could come as soon as this weekend. What would that mean? Is Trump beatable? Is there a Democrat at this late stage that you think can beat President Trump?
Yeah, Andy Beshear, governor of Kentucky. But the problem is they've got a vice president, African-American female, that would be very difficult for them to not put in Biden's position. That being said, there is a model out there, the Carville model, where they do a series of debates with the 4 or 5 people, including our governor, mm-hmm. That would be interested, and then it's a democratic process. But yeah, I think it can be. I think both these candidates are very unpopular, and the shiny new object, if that person can get on the stage for 7 weeks and perform well, I think they could win it. That being said, early voting starts September 1st.
What are your thoughts about that?
Well, first of all, the reason you hear so much about him getting out of the race is because he isn't interested in getting out of the race. You don't do these transitions in the public marketplace on the front page of newspapers through leaked sources on network television. You just don't do it that way. To make it done right, they should all come out comfortably and do it. The president is not interested in getting out of the race. They're trying to push him out. If you asked me yesterday, I'd said 90% of the probability was he was going to stay there. Today, 50-50, he's not going to be able to make it because of all the public pressure that way. They want an open primary. They want an open convention. They want to be able to compete. They don't want Vice President Harris to be the candidate. The Obama wing of the party they have their own candidates. She is not one of them. I don't know if they win without having the vice president on the ticket. As far as I'm concerned, if she's not on the ticket, they don't win in November.
Interesting. So there's behind-the-scenes polling going on to see who might be able to win against Donald Trump. I understand it has been done with Kamala Harris, too. This is interesting, though. If this does happen, would this create a resurgence in the Democrats? Because the Republicans are unified now. The Democrats, right now, everything is a mess. Could it enable some people to say, I'm going to go out and vote, and I'm going to vote for that Democrat? I've heard some of the younger generation saying, oh, well, if that happens, I'll vote then.
Oh, yeah, it's certain. There's a vacuum of interest here. people hate both these candidates. 7 in 10 don't want either of them. The shiny new object, if that person can perform. Sarah Palin's a good example. In 2008, she came out, gave a great speech. McCain's up 5, believe it or not, coming out of Labor Day. She blew it after that. But people like the new thing. I think they're dying for something new and different, and I think there's an opportunity. But that person has to perform.
Okay, Tom?
The elephant in the room is President Biden up to running the country through January? They're saying to us he isn't, so we have to change our candidate in a month in Chicago. So if he isn't up for it now, who's running the country between now and January? Big open door for the Republicans to go after him. It's very difficult to do what they're trying to do right now. The Democrats have the votes, they have the numbers, but can they get organized? And I think who said it, that I'm a Democrat or disorganized party? Who said that great quote?
Roy Rogers.
Roy Rogers. Yeah.
Okay.
You were with, you know him. You were good buddies with him, right? You guys the same age?
With that, we're going to wrap this up, gentlemen. Thank you, as always, for coming in. We'll be